weapon shooting bloody seagull!
We've got no heavy artillery.
I'm coming to fight.
Inside Kosovo.
Mirëmbrëma zona o zotërim, po ju flas nga studio e Politikos, unë jam Kushtrim Sadiku dhe t'jem bashkë me ju gjatë minutave në vazhdim. Emisioni sotëm është një emision i veçantë, nuk është një debat që flet për një aktualitet politik, por është më shumë një emision që shpërfaq një mision të shenjtë, misioni i lirisë, misioni edhe atë i lirisë së një vendi i cili nuk është i tij. Emri i mysafirit është John Harrison. Ai njihet si Britaniku i ushtrisë qëllimtare të Kosovës. Njihet si ushtari profesionist britanik i cili ju bashkangjit luftrave të ish Jugosllavisë përfshirë këtu për ta përmbyllur dhe rrumbullakuar atë çfarë ndodhi në Kosovë. Ndoshta në betejën më të rrept që e ka regjistruar ushtria qëllimtare e Kosovës, betejë e Kosharës. Sot do të jetë një moment i veçantë për të diskutuar me Johnin për atë çfarë ka ndodhur 24 vjet më herët, por edhe për një rrugtim goxha të vështirë, goxha sfidues në këtë periudhën pas Kosharës, sepse mysafiri John Harrison është ballafaquar me shumë sëmundje dhe mrekullisht ka arritur ti mbijetojë gjitha atyre. Do të jetë një moment i veçantë për diskutuar mbi detaje shumë të rëndësishme, sidomos në këtë situatë kur drejtuesit e ushtrisë qëllimtare të Kosovës janë duke u ballafaquar me drejtësinë e gjykatës speciale. Shumë çka për diskutuar në vazhdim, ju jeni në vendin e duhur. John, hello and welcome again to Kosovo. I guess this is our second or third time that we are making this interview, and it's 10 years after our first interview.
That's correct. It's 10 years, and I think it's our third interview this time.
Third interview. Yeah. I think it will be the best.
Yeah, I hope so.
How are you?
I'm very good. For the first time in 14 years, and after 3 cancers, I'm cancer-free.
You're cancer-free?
Yeah, totally cancer-free.
This is a great news.
Yeah.
This is a great news for all of us.
I have other medical problems. My kidneys are playing naughty at the moment, but I feel great.
Yeah?
I've just got over COVID, but I feel absolutely amazing right now.
This is a great news for everyone that knows you here in Kosovo and abroad, of course.
Yeah.
And do you come very often in Kosovo?
I try to. This is the first time in 4 years because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
I couldn't come, and every time I tried to come, I ended up in hospital in England with infection. But this time I had to come. There was a very, very, very good reason I had to come.
It was a special event.
Yes.
This time that you came here, and I guess you brought and took a very special news regarding your marriage. Now you're Kosovar groom.
Yes, I am indeed.
Explain us to.
It all started with our first interview. Layla came home and did something she never does before. She switched on the television and she saw us on TV and questioned who is this Englishman? What is he? She asked all her friends. They knew nothing about me. So she found me on Facebook and sent me an amazing thank you message for what I had done, which humbles me anyway every time I receive these things. And we just kept talking, and her passion for medicine just blew me away. And we just kept talking and talking and talking. And 6.5 years later, we got married.
Yeah, you got married in a special ceremony here in Pristina, and I guess I'm the one to blame.
Yes, you are. You definitely are the one to blame.
Very, very sorry about that.
No, in one way I've got to thank you. You know, I definitely got to thank you for that.
Yeah, to blame, yeah, of course. And this is a great news that you brought us in the audience that is following us all this time. I want to go back in the beginnings, John. How did all started? Since we have a new audience, and this is a new opportunity, and there are a lot of people that are asking why this British guy, this Englishman, came in Kosovo. Why this guy, you know, joined KLA?
I spent 6 years in the Croatian army, fighting against Yugoslavian troops, and I went home. And even though we'd won, I still felt something was wrong. And then Kosovo started. And it took me about a week to sell everything I owned. And I came. As I tell people, I'm not a doctor. I couldn't save lives. But I could train people to save their own lives. And it was just the desire to help, not let Bosnia, Srebrenica, Gorazde happen again. And that was my desire, that was my driving force.
You had any contact with Albanians from Kosovo, or you didn't know anyone here?
I didn't know anybody here. I tried for about 7 months via the Albanian embassy, but they kept blocking me to give me a lead to get into Kosovo. And then I contacted a gentleman called Tadej Plana and Bayram Gecaj. And within, let's say, a week, I was on my way here. I stayed 2 days in Tirana, and then I made my way up to Popeye.
Yeah, Popeye. What year is this? 98 or 99?
98.
98.
Yeah.
And how was the venture? I mean, going in Albania, and what was the connection going to Koszare?
I was just sent there and I was told, help with the training. They're trying to build a unit that was going to be the spearhead of the brigade, which was Delta Forțat Commando. And they wanted the training to be combined so the people knew what they were doing. They just weren't given a gun and sent to the front. So that was my orders from Tirana, to go there and do that. It was a huge shock. I expected the same type of availability of munitions, the availability of weapons as we did in Croatia. I was shocked at what we had, but we made it work. And as time came on, we got more and more ammunition, more and more weapons, better quality weapons. And over time, we built a very, very strong unit.
Who were the closest associates in Koszare? Who were the people that you stayed with, and you trained them? And
well, my right-hand man was Sami Gecaj. He was my voice, because obviously I couldn't speak Albanian. He stayed with me the whole time. We used to take in 30 recruits every 6 weeks. And out of that 30, 5 would pass training. They would just drop off, didn't have motivation, didn't have the will to carry on, didn't have the drive to complete what was in front of them. So about 4 or 5 used to pass through our hands, through to Commandant Anton Ciuni, who was in command of the Delta Forțat Commando.
So your associates were also Mr. Çuni and
Rustem Berisha.
Rustem Berisha, Hissem Berisha,
Yeah.
Nasim Haradinaj, and
Yes.
all those guys. Explain to us how was the situation in Koshare, since the debate is also going on, you know, regarding the political stance and the political position, who were with the LDK, who were the other guys and the other part.
One thing I did with every group that came in through my door is I said one phrase: you leave the politics there.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't care who you belong to. Here, you're a soldier. That's it. You have one job: stay alive. That is it. I don't care who you vote for, who you support. And I think that worked. You know, we had no confrontation within the unit. The higher-ups, yes, there may have been some arguments, but that was out of my pay grade. I wasn't involved in any of that. I think at the end of the war, the division became bigger. Those who were in FARC, those who were in UÇK, it was more noticeable. And that's when it got a little bit nasty.
But during the war?
During the war, we were one.
We were one.
Yeah, we had one enemy, that was it.
Explain to us the harshness of the battlefield, since Koshare is known that it is one of the hardest battles for KLA soldiers.
Well, when you think of Koshare, it's the only land we ever took back off the Serbs. And it was fought hard, close, you know, sometimes 10 meters.
Yeah.
You know, and when you think of Koshare, 49 Delta went over the top. That was it, to start with, against 230 Serbian army. And we beat them back. You know, the pressure on those guys to survive 24 hours without major backup was immense.
Did you get any help? I mean, from the Albanian authorities in that time?
On the way up to Tropolje, the Albanians parked 12 tanks, but they never actually came forward to help. I don't think they ever actually fired a round. So it literally was just us.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So it is very, very interesting to go back 24 years before, since lately we are seeing that Serbian propaganda and Serbian media is making documentaries about Koshare, and is calling Koshare the Vietnam of the Serbian then Yugoslav army. Have you seen them?
I've seen the Serbian video.
Yeah.
Where they claim French Foreign Legion, Navy SEALs, American Marines, the whole world came over Koshare, according to Serbia.
True? Is that true?
No. There was 49 Delta to start with, and then the rest of the brigade followed. You know, their propaganda machine is probably one of the best in the world, but that's what it is propaganda. You know, they got hurt in Koshare. I personally believe, and I've said this to Rustem Berisha at the time, that I believe we could have pushed on. If NATO didn't come in, I believe we could have pushed on all the way to Pristina if needed, because we got that momentum.
You got the desire, but you had no arms, no tanks, no choppers, no planes.
We still took 15 square kilometers in 3 days. That in itself is an amazement. That momentum could have carried on. We had the air support from NATO. Yeah. If we carried on with the air support, I think personally we could have carried on.
Were you the only foreigner there? Or
No.
Who were the other guys, and what were their story?
We had Mike Spath, who was a sniper, who was in charge of the snipers for 138 Brigade. We had 2 Frenchmen arrive when I was there. One who I knew from Croatia, who was an amazing soldier. Unfortunately, his first day on the front line, he got shot in the bottom. So that ended his career. The other Frenchman is buried in Koszare. He lost his life. Unfortunately, he stood on a landmine and lost his life, I think, 3 days in. There were other foreigners around.
But they were not mercenaries.
No.
No. They joined KLA, seeing the situation that a genocide might going to happen.
Yes.
Like in Bosnia.
Yes.
That was that the story.
That was it. You know, yes, a few mercenaries did turn up to Popeye.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like, there is no money. What you hear, within 2-3 hours they'd gone. You know, I had 11 foreigners come up to Popeye one day, and the chief of the military police said, "Can you train them? See how good they are." By midday, they'd all gone home because they learned there was no money, there was no spoils of war, and the conditions were very, very harsh, and they didn't like it. It was only us few who understood what could happen if we did not help. We stayed.
Going back 24 years before, and speaking about that situation, did you understood in that time the importance of the borderline, of Koszare, of the strategic importance of the place, and the war itself?
Every time we went from Popeye to Babina, which was our forward operating base before Koszare, Sammy always used to go, "That's my country. I want to be there." And he pointed out exactly where the border was. That put into me how important that area was. You know, the desire on every single one of those guys to get home was unbelievable. And we had people refugees coming through the lines. And even though I didn't have much money with me, I put my hand in my own pocket to buy them food, to buy them Coca-Cola, to give them sugar, to give them something when they arrived at Popeye. Because there was a little shop owned by one of the locals. And every time they come forward, I used to, feed them, give them something. Because they were in a terrible state. And every time they came forward, I brought my lads out and said, "This is why you're fighting. This is what you've got to do it for."
And when you were part of the KLA war, did you manage to contact your family and to tell them, what are you doing here?
Yeah,
and
I went to
what were those moments, and what were those and the thoughts of your father and your mother and everyone
I used to go to Baram Suri when I had a day off and go to the post office, and I used to ring my mum, and it was weird phoning her from, faraway land where, you've got a Kalashnikov strapped to your back. She was worried. I once asked her, "Are you proud of what I've done?" She said, "Yeah, I'm proud of what you've done, but you're still bloody stupid for doing it." My father as well, he's ex-army. My father spent 22 years in the British Army. So he understood why I needed to go.
Yeah.
And he was more interested in the tactical, what we're doing side of things, where my mum was going, are you okay? Is everything all right? But those phone calls meant a lot to me. You know, they kept me in the link back home.
They tell you that, why are you fighting for Albanians? Who are the Albanians? Did they know about the situation in the Balkans?
No, not really. Before I actually came to Kosovo, I asked a lot of friends in Croatia, should I go? And it was 50-50. But once I'd got it in my head that I wasn't going to let this happen again, I was going. My mum understood why I needed to go. She understood my drive. My dad obviously did as well. My little brother and sister, who were 10 and 6 at the time, they didn't quite understand it. They were full of tears when I was leaving, you know, but they've grown up now. My brother's been to Kosovo twice with me, you know, and he loved it. He understands it. He actually laid a wreath for me on my behalf in Koshare 4 years ago. So he understands the passion, why I love this country.
I can see your hat with Agim Ramadani.
Yes.
Can you explain us, have you had an opportunity to meet him?
Yes, I met him.
And what are your thoughts? And
one of the most intelligent men I've ever met. Really, truly intelligent man. The hat itself, I was in Koshare for the 24th anniversary.
Yeah.
And somebody just put it on my head. I don't even know who put it on my head. But I'm proud to have known him. I'm proud to have served in the brigade of his name.
So you have met him. You think that he is one of the most intelligent guys that you have met in Koshare. Can you remember the time and the day that he lost his life? And
we actually
what were the thoughts of you and your associates in Koshare?
We actually learned about 24 hours afterwards.
Yeah.
By the time it got back to us, we just went numb. It just, everything drained. It was just unbelievable emotion. You know, how could this happen? But he led from the front. He wasn't a commander who would send troops forward. He would go forward himself. You know, that's what a commander is.
What was the impact on the warriors and the soldiers regarding the day that you have took the news that he lost his life?
There was great remorse, great sadness, but it gave a renewed drive. Not so much revenge, but we need to do this for Agim now. You know, we need to do it for him. And I think that gave a huge boost inside the men to fight harder and to achieve what they did.
Who was the person to take responsibility since Agim Ramadani lost his life? Was Rustem Berisha?
Yes, it was Rustem Berisha took
Can you explain us those situations?
We were just told Rustem is now in charge, which was great. He is an amazing man. When I first met him, I actually thought he looked like Peter Sellers, the actor. He was so similar to him. Very quiet. Not what you would think a brigade commander would be, very loud and shouty. He was a very quiet, reserved man. But he had an amazing military brain.
And he was, from that moment, he was the driving force.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
Him and Anton Chuni, who was number 2 in the brigade, they drove that brigade, and I don't think any other commander could have done what they have done, quite frankly. They deserve so much more plaudits than they've been given. You know, they deserve so much more.
Can you mention other guys also from that
Fadil
time?
Haradinejad, he's general now.
Yeah.
He was only a lieutenant when we met, just a young boy. Again, always seemed with a smile on his face. In the most serious of times, smiled. There's so many guys. Mechan Zolya, one of my guys I trained, he was like a workhorse. He never stopped running. It doesn't matter what he did, he ran everywhere. One thing I am proud of is a few of the men I trained went on to join FSK, and they've become colonels in FSK now. That to me gives me the greatest pride. Dr. Abba Marina, he came to me, he had just lost his family. His whole family had been murdered. He just wanted to grab a gun, go to the front, take as many Serbs with him and die. And I sat him down about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I said, look up, find the brightest star. I said, that's your family. They're watching you, don't let them down.
Can you remember the time when NATO started bombing campaign towards Yugoslav forts? What was the impact in the battlefields in Košare and in Kosovo? Yeah,
it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It was great that they were doing it, but since it's been leaked since then, that the French were actually giving Serbs heads up of where we were going to bomb, or where NATO were going to bomb.
Yeah, that
so
was.
it gave Serbs.
I remember that news that came in 1999. Yeah.
So it was a bit of a double-edged sword.
French colonel that gave some information towards the Serbian troops.
Yeah, and that was a bit. You know, we could have done a lot more damage, and we could have achieved a lot more if that information never got passed on. The only man that I trained that I lost in combat was actually from a NATO bombing.
Yeah?
They bombed our camp by mistake. And unfortunately, he lost his life. But the NATO campaign, it was needed. I think it could have been a little bit harder, personally.
Why?
Because they weren't hitting the right targets, even though they were being told where they're being bombed. They weren't hitting the armor. They weren't hitting the tanks, the gun emplacements. They were just hitting the infrastructure, their logistics bases. Good targets, but really and truly we needed the heavy artillery to be taken out. But I think, again, without NATO, we would have been nowhere.
Yeah. When the campaign happened for 72 or 74 days, and speaking about that situation, going back in that time, did you believe that the freedom for these people and Kosovo is coming in those days?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. the drive that people had made it possible. They made the belief. No way were the Serb aggressors going to take their land, which their ancestors grew. Their ancestors built their houses, lived there for hundreds of years. Yes, they might have been kicked out, but believe me, they had the drive and the will to go back.
Can you remember the day on 11 June 1999?
Yeah.
Explain to us.
Rustem Berisha, we got the whole brigade out in Unich. We actually moved down to Unich by then. And the whole brigade, and he said, the war's over. We've won. That was it. Simple words like that. The relief on every single man, you could literally see it drain off everybody. You know, we had to stay together for another 8 days, 9 days before we were released to go and see the families and everything. But you could feel the relief, the anticipation of going home, you know, but also what was waiting for them when they got there. You know, you could feel that little bit of tension still in the air.
What was the picture of Kosovo in that time?
Driving from Unich through to Pristina, it was empty. It's the only way I can explain it. It was empty. Yes, you could see signs of battle. You could see where the Albanian houses had been destroyed, but the Serbian houses were quite happily stood there, untouched. You could see where shops had been blown out. And it was very, very eerie, very desolate. But within 48 hours, so many people flooded back and it became alive again.
How was Pristina in that time?
On edge.
What do you mean?
It felt tension in the air because all the NATO troops were pouring in, setting up their bases. There was still possibly some Serb units withdrawing. We didn't know. We weren't allowed to carry weapons, which, okay, that's fine. But it still left us a little bit on edge in case there were Serb units hiding in blocks of flats, snipers, whatever. We did not know at that time. So there was a little bit of tension in the air. But again, you could see a smile on people's faces.
What was the communication of KLA soldiers? I mean, speaking of your point of view, with KFOR forces, since the British forces were the first to enter.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking about the NATO, and of course, that was another situation that the Russian troops from Bosnia came.
Yes.
You know, before NATO, and that was a kind of strange positioning regarding NATO and Russia also.
The funny thing is, the British unit who were being ordered by Wesley Clark to go and retake the airfield was actually my old unit from the Royal Air Force Regiment. They were sitting on Chinook helicopters ready to go. I think NATO were very worried about KLA coming in armed, looking for revenge, but it never happened. We obeyed the orders, put down your weapons. You know, there was good communication between what I saw between NATO and our units. Even during the bombing campaign, we had regular visits from NATO unit coming up. What do we need? Where do we need bombing? What area? So all in all, I think the communication between the two was very, very good.
So the war ended in that time. What were your feelings about the country, the people here, and the future of the place that the war took place?
I did. Rustem Berisha said to me, "Now the war is over, we're going to drink champagne in Pristina."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "No, we'll go and drink a coffee now." I said, "When you're a free republic, then we'll drink champagne." And 2 days after the independence was signed in 2008, I bought a bottle of champagne to Rustem Berisha and I kept my promise.
Yeah?
The feeling that I saw afterwards, I stayed with Sami. We went to Sami's house in Pristina. And I had to fulfill one promise to Baram Getsay, which was to put an Albanian flag over his house.
Mm-hmm.
And that promise was fulfilled. We did that. I think the nationalistic pride came out in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they saw NATO as the victor, but they saw KLA, the people took KLA to their hearts then.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that freedom for Kosovo people would have come without NATO?
That's difficult to say. Without the export, no.
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 Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 24, 25 years later, when you are seeing that the ex-KLA commanders are dealing with the specialist court in Hague, and
Yeah.
When you see that specialist court is formed for KLA, and that's the only example here in regarding the ex-Yugoslav war, how are your feelings and what are your thoughts about that?
Anger. Why is there
Explain to us.
Why is there no court for the Serbian generals? Where's their court? There's still 17,000 people missing from this country. Yeah. Our guys, our generals, yeah, they never ordered massacre. They never ordered to kill civilians.
Mm-hmm.
So why are they in court? That's wrong. I'm afraid the world has got that wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They should be released and they should come home. And come home as heroes they are.
Mm-hmm.
But the perpetrators of the war sit happily in their pensions in Belgrade, Niš, wherever. Why aren't they in court? Why aren't they in court, in prison? 2 years' time, Serbia is supposed to join the EU. How can they be accepted into the EU? Srebrenica, 8,000 men. Gorazde, 4,000 people disappeared. Throughout Bosnia, there's still 32,000 people missing. 17,400 from Kosovo. Yet they're allowed to join the EU? Sorry, but they're wrong.
What is the impact towards the Kosovar people regarding your standpoint when the foreign media, the Western press is reporting on the specialist court, and 25 years later is reporting about atrocities and is reporting about Kosovar people and Kosovo commanders that are battling with the court?
In England, they don't show very much of it. I have to go online to find out what is happening. My own personal view is, I said, I think the world has got it wrong. Yes, there is a saying, no smoke without fire, but I'm afraid there's no fire there. From what I saw, you know, I met Nassim Haradinejad in Popeye.
Yes.
You know, nice enough bloke, nice commander. Yes, he was very shouty, but he never massacred anyone. You know, Khadr Vaseli, politically, I'm not even going to touch that. But I heard he was an amazing fighter. You know.
What about Mr. Thaçi and Krasniqi, Selimi?
Again, these men never ordered, as far as I'm aware, any massacre against anyone. They were in command of soldiers, of men. They gave orders, go free Kosovo. That's all we did. I never witnessed anything that would contravene the Geneva Convention. And believe me, I look. Because in the end of the day, it's my name as well. 12 years ago, it was mentioned in the British press, in the Daily Mirror newspaper, John Harrison's been investigated by The Hague. I contacted The Hague. They never even heard of me.
Yeah?
Yeah. It was a false story printed by a journalist that was nobody. But my mum saw that, and it broke her heart. Now, if I had to go to The Hague today, I would stand up with pride and tell them, I'm sorry, but what I did and what I saw were real men doing their jobs. Nothing contravened the Geneva Convention.
Was the initiative to form a specialist or a special chamber, special court, a mistake regarding the political parties here in Kosovo?
I think investigations had to happen into everything.
Yeah.
We have to have everything documented. But to go as far as bringing people like President Thaçi, Khadr Vaseli, Mr. Salimi, to that court, that was wrong. That was wrong.
And how do you think all the situation with the court would end?
I think if any one of those gentlemen spent one day convicted, there would be riots on the streets.
Riots in the streets?
That's how much the people out there think about them. You go anywhere, you see signs praising our commanders. We should be proud of our commanders. We shouldn't be victimizing them. Yes, I agree. Everything should be documented. Everything should be investigated. But to lock these guys up, well, they're doing the investigation, well, they're doing that, that's wrong. If there was something, then take it forward. But not take them away from their families. Take them away from their country.
Speaking about the ex-commanders, and a lot of them have, after the war, have joined the political life. What are your thoughts and your stance about, for example, Mr. Thaçi, Mr. Ramush Haradinaj, Mr. Fatmir Limaj, and all the other guys that were part of the KLA and started and are still in the political life in Kosovo?
You like asking the difficult questions, don't you?
I'm a journalist.
Yeah, true.
What should I do?
I think after the war we needed it. But I would say this, if Agim Ramadani was alive, he would have been president without question. You know. I think it's the right of any person to take up their own politics. And they have served their country well, in uniform and in civilian life. You know, I support Anton Chuni with all my heart. You know, I love the man. I love Rustam Barisha with all my heart. And I support them no matter what. I would stand next to them no matter what party they stand for. But I think it's time now to move on. I think it's time now we need a new generation to take us forward. It's been 24 years now. It's time to take the steps, the big steps.
Do you have contacts with Agim Ramadani's family?
Yes, I do. When I was up in Koshare, Mrs. Ramadani grabbed me by the neck and pulled me to have photographs taken with Yetan. Every time she sees me, she comes running up to me and gives me a big hug.
Yeah.
You know, it's very heartwarming.
Next year it will be a quarter of century from Koshare. How are you planning to
I'm hoping we're going to have a big party.
Situation?
I hope we're going to have a big party.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's 25 years, which seems like a blink of an eye. It's hard to think when it's quarter of a century. It's amazing.
In Prizren, a street is named after you.
Yes.
And you have it in your background. Speaking about that situation, what were your feelings when you saw your name on the street in Prizren?
I cried like a baby. I was just so much pride. You know, I'm a little man from Hereford in England. I didn't expect anything like that. You know, that's going to be there for hundreds of years, hopefully. It was just amazing. You know, and every time I'm in prison, I have to go and visit my street.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have to go and visit my street. You know, it's a matter of pride. And 4 years ago, which was really nice, is when my brother, who's also called John.
Also called John?
Yeah, my father was also called John as well. It's a very complicated family.
Yeah.
We both stood under that sign and we both had a photograph taken of it. That was, that meant a lot to me.
Yeah. What were those, those moments, and what did your mom and your dad said when they saw the
Unfortunately,
the
they had both passed away by the time the street had been named.
Yeah.
I think my mum would have been overwhelmed with pride. My dad would have just taken it on the chin and said, yeah, well done. That was the type of man he was. Nothing overwhelmed him.
What about your friends, your friends, your close associates in England? What did they say?
Oh, they think it's amazing. They can't, they're sort of like, but why? You know, they just go, why? Why did they do that? But yeah, I think the people who know me the best, I think they're proud for me.
Are you planning to leave, to go in England, or maybe to come back in Kosovo and spend your rest of your life here?
I would love to live in Kosovo with my wife now, but health issues prevent me at the moment from doing that. I don't think there's the organized care that, with my complex history, they could handle. But one day, it would be my dream to come here, nice piece of land, you know, 200 dogs running around, you know, about 10, 15 children. I'll be happy with that.
10, 15,
Oh, yeah.
only 10, 15 children?
Well, I've got to start a football team to help Liverpool, so, you know.
So you're a Liverpool fan?
Oh, yes.
Yeah? Okay. Okay. That is quite interesting. And when you see Kosovo, I mean, Kosovo is now in an independent state, and Kosovars are European people, and they are young people at most with European dreams. What is your view on the future of this country?
I think the youth are going to make this country better. You need visa liberalisation. You need to get out into the world properly, without restrictions. But I think if Kosovo could engage the youth in public service, in celebrating what we did, this state could go places. It could get stronger. It could get richer. You know, it's just got to break away from the, how can I put it? The old way of doing things. You know, the corruption, we've got rid of that. Needs more burying, but we've got rid of most of it. Get rid of that. This country could go places.
Can you make a comparison regarding the war in Ukraine and that situation that happened in Kosovo 24 or 25 years before?
The war in Ukraine is, if I was fully fit now, I would be in Ukraine.
You would be in Ukraine?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
I don't like people oppressing others. I don't like when a bully stands up and tries to force his way into others' homes, in others' lands. That's a driving force that's always been with me. The war in Ukraine is a million miles from what we had in Koszary. I would be scared out of my mind in Ukraine. Drones, you don't hear them, they just drop a bomb on your head. That's scary. But again, it's trench combat in Ukraine. They're fighting meter for meter.
Yeah.
You know, now heavy tanks are coming into play, gifted from the world to Ukraine. That's going to be a game changer. That will change the battlefield a lot. But when you look at places like Bakhmut, it's totally destroyed. There's not one person living there anymore. You know, at the end of this war, the world has got to pay to rebuild Ukraine.
Yeah. Are the Western powers reacting properly to help Ukrainian people, Ukrainian government with this fight with Russia?
I believe so, yeah. They're doing something that they never did for us. They're giving them the weapons to do the job. They never did that for us. They're doing it properly because they're scared. Russia is what we thought was a big bear, but he's turned out to be a toothless cat. His troops, they're getting 6 weeks training if they're lucky, and sent to the front. And at the moment, it's mainly the Wagner group in the front line. You know,
Yes.
paid mercenaries. Where's that money coming from to pay them? You know, it's the questions need to be asked for this. If the West has implied all these sanctions against Russia, who's paying the Wagner group? You know, but the warfare there is so asymmetrical. a very, very scary place right now.
25 years after the war in Kosovo, still Kosovo and Serbia are not managing to recognize each other as an independent states. There is a dialogue going on for 12 years.
Yeah.
Now, how are you seeing that situation? What is your standpoint on the relations between Pristina and Belgrade?
I watched, Serbia blocked the borders with trucks. I watched that on the news, and I thought that was such disgusting. When they shot the policeman. No. When they sent their troops one early morning to walk through a village in northern Mitrovica, that in itself is an act of war. They like provoking Kosovo to try and get a reaction. And thank God Kosovo will never react. We are the better man. It's about time Serbia realizes they lost and they need to recognize Kosovo as an independent state. Normalize relations, everybody then can relax. There's still too much tension. You know, I look at Mitrovica and I look that you guys have paid the electricity for Mitrovica for 24 years. Why? That's wrong. It's all to placate Serbians. Well, I'm sorry, but it's Kosovo now. Pay your bill. Be Kosovan. Not Albanian, Kosovan.
Yeah.
Don't care what flag you fly under, what religion you support, you are Kosovan. You know, act like it. Time to recognize this country for what it is, an independent republic.
John, thank you very much for your time and this special interview here in Politiko in Channel 10.
Thank you very much, Christian.
Thank you. Është intervista me Britanikun e ushtrisë sildimtare të Kosovës, një intervistë shumë e veçantë të cilën e realizuan këtu në Politiko. Ju falenderoj shumë për vëmendjen. Mirupafshim.